Thanks for joining us.
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Welcome to the podcast. You are now tuned in to this episode of our podcast. Today, we are going to interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. And now, please welcome your host.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And we're back. It's always great to have former Assemblyman Dov Hikind with us. He's head of Americans Against Anti-Semitism. He's not afraid to speak out. So, Dov, welcome back. Good to see you again.
It's good to be with you, Zev.
So, I think everybody's elated that Bauman, the anti-Semite, has been defeated by such resounding numbers. I think you were the first to tweet out about it. What, you have a few 100,000 downloads afterwards?
Yeah, we look, one of the things you learn in politics that nothing is guaranteed until it's actually guaranteed, with the counting of the votes. Someone may look like they're going to win, they're in good shape, but until you really see it and they start counting votes, you don't know. So it became pretty clear within a half hour or so that Bauman was going to be looking for a new job. We put it out immediately, and literally hundreds of thousands of people have watched it. And look, this is one, we've gone through such difficult times watching the hate, the Jew hatred unfold throughout the United States, throughout the world, and the situation in Israel. This was good news for all of us. This was great news for all of us. I mean, this guy was, I think the word we used in the old days in yeshiva was a bulvan. This guy was in your face, filled with hatred, filled with animosity. I think everyone by now saw the rally with self-proclaimed Jew Bernie Sanders with AOC, where Bauman was literally out of control. If someone had told me that he was out for the weekend from an institution, I would have believed it. Just watching his behavior, it was crude. It was
Crude and lewd.
Hard to believe that this was a member of the United States Congress, and this is a guy who he tried to impress the radicals, the Hamas caucus. The United States Congress. He tried to outdo everyone in his attacks on Israel, calling it genocide, apartheid, you name it. I mean, literally, was it 48 hours before the election? He finally publicly said that what happened on October 7th to women being raped, being brutalized, the horrors that were committed against men, women, and children, in particular women, it was literally 48 hours before he saw the light. Oh, yeah, it's true. It did happen. Up until that point, he denied that it happened. I mean, this guy, evil personified.
It's alarming, but by the way, first of all, the rally, and very few outlets reported the rally on Saturday had maybe 50 to 75 people there. I saw the video from the back, and you saw how few people were there. Wasn't even in his district, and he's screaming and jumping up and down like a lunatic. I mean, I think that would have turned their voters, because the way he was jumping up and down, that's not normal behavior, and the way he was screaming about blanking, AIPAC. And then he wanted to show, I'm going to get even with you, ceasefire now. And very few people were shouting with him. So he's really out of touch.
Very much out of touch with his district, and, blaming AIPAC. If you are an effective elected official, I don't care how much your opponent is going to spend. If people know that you are there for them, that you care for them, that you're doing a good job, people are going to support you. How many cases can you and I talk about where one side outspend another candidate, an incumbent, etc., 5-1, 10-1, and the person who spent all the money lost the election? I think we know that in politics, money is important, But spending a lot of money doesn't guarantee a darn thing. We know that. So
Look at
all these,
Bloomberg. Bloomberg failed when he ran for president. He had all the money in the world.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's case after case after case. You could hire the best people, spend all the money in the world, unlimited, whatever you want, and you end up not even getting to first base. So, few people, especially politicians, want to look in the mirror and say, the guy in the mirror is the problem. It's that guy. But what he's going to do, he's been doing it before the primary, and he'll do it now. He's going to blame AIPAC. He'll blame the Jews. He'll blame the cabal. Jewish control, Jewish power, etc., etc. This is an incredibly dangerous individual, as are the rest of the people in this caucus. And I predict, and with God's help and the people doing their job, and that means voting, people in the Jewish community and others, they came out. I mean, the numbers were staggering in terms of the turnout, because people understood how important this election was. So
we had
you got to vote.
Some shuls had an 80 or 90% participation.
Exactly. I mean, this was a moment, and this was like the number one story after the election. Everybody's analyzing, and everybody, but it's all very, very, very simple. This guy Bauman was just a bad guy, a dangerous individual, and the anti-Semitism and the hatred. It didn't. By the way, it didn't matter if you were a Jew who was liberal. It didn't matter if you were a Jew who was more to the right. None of that mattered. Everyone understood that Bauman does not belong in the halls of the United States Congress. And the latest numbers that I have seen, I haven't seen 100% yet, but we're talking about as much as 17 percentage points. An incumbent losing by 17 percentage points is almost unheard of. So this is a powerful, powerful message that I hope others will get, the Hamas caucus. And by the way, I hope that Biden will get it as well, because Biden has been catering to this group. Biden woke up. First he showed such empathy for Israel. I remember watching him at the very, very beginning. I mean, I got to tell you honestly, he had me going at the very beginning, the way he spoke when he went to Israel. But at the end of the day, he betrayed Israel. He really did. I don't use those words lightly. Betrayal is a very powerful word, but that's exactly what Biden did, and his advisors in the White House, starting with Blinken and people like outside the White House, people like Schumer. They undermined Israel. They thought, by the way, it's so ironic, Zev. They try to make it all about Netanyahu. It wasn't the people of Israel. It was the prime minister. What an ugly display of behavior in terms of democratic values. The Biden people talk about Trump in terms of destroying democracy. Isn't that what the Biden administration is doing almost every day with regard to the Netanyahu administration, elected by the people of Israel? Just because you don't like that, too bad, but they undermine Israel every single day. It's not the generals in Israel running the war in the Middle East against Hamas. It's the Pentagon. Did you know that?
Well,
it's
they're
the Pentagon.
What Israel can do.
It's the Secretary of State. They're in charge.
Let's put it this way. I think President Biden was concerned about the Arab vote, and so therefore he started catering to that. But the irony is he forgot about the Jewish vote. You saw the latest polls, even in New York, about 50 only. Usually, I think Biden got about 70% in that ballpark vicinity last time he ran. I think the polls showed this time around he probably only get maybe 50-some% of the Jewish vote.
Absolutely. And I hope, and I will do my part, and I'm planning a lot of stuff with a lot of other people in different parts of the country when the election is over in November. And again, I just want to make this very clear. For those who are diehard, Trumpies, okay, I don't have to convince you of anything. But for people who are not sure, they know that Biden is a big problem, but they have issues with Trump's behavior on many different things. I understand that, and I
Well, you had
respect that.
commissioners too, though, for a while.
I understand that. I respect that. But you really don't have the choice. This is a critical moment, and this is our opportunity to say to the Democratic Party in particular, and to Biden, and to the Schumers of the world, you cannot betray us and think that you can get away with it. We're going to teach you a lesson that you're not going to forget. And I am hopeful. We got a long way to go, but I'm hopeful, Zev, that is precisely what's going to happen, that you and I are going to talk about on your show after the election, that this was a historic moment where Jews, liberal Jews, but Jews who care about the well-being of Israel, Jews who are concerned about anti-Semitism out of control. And the Biden administration talks the talk and does nothing, absolutely nothing. They just talk about anti-Semitism, but they don't do anything because they're afraid, they got to be politically correct. We got Islamophobia. Every time they talk about anti-Semitism, they talk about Islamophobia. Where the hell is the Islamophobia? Can you please tell me where it is? I'm looking for it. I got a good flashlight, and I just can't find it.
Don't strain yourself. Our guest is former Assemblyman Dov Hikind. He's head of a group called Americans Against Anti-Semitism. Here's the interesting thing about the race with Jamal Bauman and George Latimer. He's very liberal, and yet all these Orthodox Jews that didn't look at the fact that he's very liberal. They just looked at the Israel position, and they voted for him. And I think that's very interesting to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I know him back from the Assembly. He was a member of the New York State Assembly when I was there. He's a very decent person. People in the community know him as a county executive, as an elected official. I believe he was a state senator. He was in the Assembly. So people know him as being a decent guy. He ran a very smart campaign. By the way, as many people have pointed out, before AIPAC spent 1 penny in this race against Bauman, at the very beginning, when he jumped into the race, the first polling indicated that he was going to win very, very comfortably. So this was rejection of this wild animal. That's what I have to call him.
He acts like a wild animal.
His behavior, I was going to call him a pig last night, and my wife said, don't do that. And I said, you know what? It's not fair to the pigs. But he was horrible.
Horrible.
I mean, he was
Are you
so
concerned
bad.
about revenge of him and his ilk?
Hey, look, you know what? Let him do whatever he wants to do. He's not going to be called Congressman Bowman anymore very, very soon. So I'm not really worried. And next, as you know, you have Cori Bush, another horrible. Oh, my God. Cori Bush, she has the primary. I believe it's August 6th. And based on the polling right now, we got a way to go. There's a very good chance that she will lose as well. That would be amazing. And I believe that Omar has a race that could be serious. The person that's running against her ran against her 2 years ago and almost won. Almost won. So listen, got to pick them off one at a time. And this is a very powerful message with Bowman. Sending him
should be next. AOC should be next. I mean,
yeah. By the way, I understand he's joining the fire department. I'm not confirmed, but there is the possibility. I know he's been offered something.
I think that's
something to do with
it's
alarm. Those things that you push.
You got to push his buttons.
Yes.
I want to shift for a few moments that we have remaining, and I want you to wear your anti-Semitism hat. And in LA, you had Jews beaten up after shuls. You have so many anti-Semitism around the country. Yet, even in New York, they had those Columbia desecrators. They were just let free.
Yeah.
This lip service is being paid.
Zev, you remember our organization, Americans Against Anti-Semitism, almost a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years, we did a study of the incidents over a year or two of those arrested for anti-Semitic acts. Those arrested, most people are not arrested, but those that were arrested, guess what? No consequences. Nothing happens. And I don't think anyone is that shocked. But, Columbia University, these students went into buildings, destroyed property. We're not just talking about a demonstration. We're not just talking about sitting down at the university and not wanting to leave or, refusing to leave, trespassing. We're talking about destroying property. And literally, I believe almost every single person arrested has nothing to worry about. And I guarantee you that some of those people have been arrested again already. And by the way, why not? Why not? If there are no consequences, do it again and again.
Yeah, professional protesters, over 50, 60% in that category, not even students, yet they let them go. It sends the wrong message. And I'm concerned. I'm not sure what we can be doing. We should be protesting. And I think we've been too quiet.
Yeah, listen, Zev, we've been too quiet in general. I want to say this to all your listeners, and I've been talking a lot about it. We are losing the battle, ladies and gentlemen. We're losing the battle. Our enemies are doing extremely well. They are out there. They're protesting. They're nonstop. Every time you turn around, they are doing something. They are organized in every single way all over the United States. And you know what? I'm jealous because what are we doing? What's the game plan for the Jewish community after what happened October 7th? We're living in a different world now, a very dangerous one. Ron Teresian, who's a well-known individual, head of a public relations company, and he's very active. I know him well. He just did a piece, I believe, on Arutz Sheva today, where he talks about, God forbid, Jews have been beaten up. There are Jews who have actually died at these demonstrations. Was it in San Francisco or LA where someone fell back and hit their head and died? But, it's scary in terms of what may happen. These radicals, what they may do in terms of endangering the Jewish community in a much more serious way. Are we prepared? Are we prepared? Are our communities prepared to stand up and fight back and do what needs to be done? I don't think so. So this is a big problem, and we are going to, in Americans Against Anti-Semitism, in the coming weeks, you'll be hearing a lot, a plan to try to make a difference. Are we going to solve the problem? Is anyone going to solve the problem? The answer is no. Can we do a lot better than we're doing now in terms of Jewish pride, in terms of Jewish strength, in terms of all the other values? We are the Jewish people. Am Yisrael Chai. Let's make that happen.
So people are saying to me, and I know you were part of the Jewish Defense League at many years ago, saying we need a JDL today.
Oh, that's a common refrain.
Right, you hear that, right?
Oh, yeah. More than hear it. People reach out and people very seriously. There's a lot going on. I did a thing yesterday with Beitar. Beitar is reinstituting itself, and they are talking precisely about doing the kind of things that we've been talking about, training people, people being able to get weapons legally, and just training people even mentally. I'm not talking about everybody should learn judo or karate and become an expert, but we need to change the mindset of the Jewish community, not to be afraid, to be careful, to be smart, but not to be afraid. When you are afraid and you show that fear, Zev, we lose.
They know it.
It's over.
They know it.
They feel it.
Now, what I was curious to know, and then we Jews are too passive, and we have to really defend ourselves in so many different ways. And by the way, I have to say, I am so proud of our community, especially the Orthodox Jewish community, for in the race against Jamal Bauman, they were in the forefront, and they went to shul, and they really recruited people, and they did an excellent job with it. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that came up. But did you realize that about 1,300 Jews switched from Republicans to Democrats to vote in the primary? And there's always a debate: should Jews be in the Democratic Party and vote in the primary, or should
You know
Jews
something? It's
Republicans?
something that people have raised with me, Zev, as someone who actually switched from being a Democrat,
Right.
being a registered Republican. But again, I just want to point out that when I was a Democrat, I supported Republicans, and as a Republican, I will support a Democrat who I believe is the best person for the job for that particular race. So, you know, I'm not committed to anyone. Hopefully committed to the Jewish people. That's really my standard.
No, but
I'm registered in that party.
Here's what people
But
are.
it's a legitimate point because look, this is the kind of race where we needed Democrats to defeat Bauman, because once Bauman would win the race, a Republican could not win in that district. And that's true for many other districts as well. So we got to think about it and be smart. But, you know, look, you can change parties. If you see something coming, I registered as a Republican. There's a major race coming up where it's once the Democrat wins, whoever that is, that it'll be over. You can just switch back. You can do that. But it's a point that's well taken, Zev, in terms of, you know, where it's important that we have people registered in the Democratic Party. Because ultimately, in November, you can vote for anybody you want, regardless of how you registered.
I wouldn't mind if we have someone can push for open primaries so people could belong to the party they want.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we're going there, but
not in New York.
Exactly.
Other states do.
Yeah.
Now, last time we spoke a while back, you mentioned you might be interested in running for your former Assemblyman. Is that still in the cards? Are you still eyeing?
You know something? At a time like this, with what's going on, which honestly I could never imagine a couple of years ago. Anti-Semitism, I'm used to that. We all know that you never get rid of that completely. And I dealt with it during the 36 years that I was in office. And before I got elected, being involved, JDL and other things, and afterwards. But at a time like this, you know, I wish I had that additional platform. It would definitely be helpful. And if I see an opportunity, you know, I have the energy and the drive, you know, then I will take advantage. Meanwhile, we are trying to do whatever we possibly can, you know, to fight the fight, to get people in our communities. You were just talking about what happened in the Bauman race. I think that's the message that has to reverberate throughout Jewish communities in particular, especially Orthodox communities, Haredi communities, where you don't usually have the turnout that there should be, that everyone needs to register to vote. We need to show the world that we are out there and our numbers count. I mean, look, there are people who are talking about Trump trying to do very well or potentially win in New York. That's very, very difficult. But every single person in Borough Park, Flatbush, Williamsburg, Crown Heights, and beyond should be registered to vote. The numbers are not great now, Zev, in terms of the percentages. And that's not acceptable. The least anyone could do, the least, is to be a registered voter so you can vote if you want to. But if you're not registered, even if you want to vote, you can't. So people should register to vote. It is more important than ever before.
I totally agree, and I've been pushing that over the years. And
I know that
we need to get. In fact, you know, I kept saying when a teenager turns 18, but actually I told when it turns 17, they can get a voter registration form. And that's what we should really be pushing for. And maybe in all events, making sure that people register, because in this case, the community made a difference. Imagine, and I'm going to pick Borough Park and Flatbush. Imagine another 5,000 voters in Borough Park, another 5,000 in Flatbush.
Oh, you know absolutely.
That would have.
Yeah. By the way, one Hasidic group in Borough Park has it down to a science in terms of making sure that everyone is registered to vote. They don't just trust you. And that's Baviv. Baviv in Borough Park.
Which one?
You know, when I was in office, I had to figure out how does this work. Above 45, above 48, and then they told me if you say above it means 48 automatically. What a sad thing all that is. But be that as it may, above 48, since you asked, everyone, you can't go to school if you're not registered, if your family's not registered to vote. And let me tell you, they bring out the numbers because basically everyone is registered. And that should be the case with everyone. It's so critical to have those votes. Look, Zeldin, who ran for governor, came so close. We have a race coming up for mayor in the near future. And if we have the wrong person elected as mayor, I mean, New York is in bad trouble as it is right now. Terrible trouble, the 5 boroughs. But imagine if one of these radical leftists gets elected. Imagine
Jamal.
You really will have to leave your home in Brooklyn. It's going to be over for sure. So that alone, that next race for mayor is critical. You have people running already for that position.
Well, Brad Lander is running. Former Governor Andy Cuomo is running.
I don't know about Cuomo.
Well, he's pretty much
hard for me to believe that he would want to run, but
yeah,
he
can probably
sees
win.
An opportunity. He sees an opportunity. So, but some of the candidates running are so far to the left, and God forbid they should get elected. AOC will be a deputy mayor.
Listen, she's still powerful, and we really should be working to make sure next election cycle that there's a good candidate running against her, and she really, really should be defeated at the polls.
Yeah, you need a good liberal Democrat to run against her. Otherwise, it's impossible.
Former Assemblyman Dov Hikind, former host of a radio show on the Talkline Network. His new organization, well, it's not so new anymore. It's called Americans Against Anti-Semitism. People want to get in touch with you. How can they do so? AmericansAA.org, and you can go and see what we're doing. You can support the work we're doing, as many people do. We've been around now for 5 years, tax-exempt organization. And, we say things that need to be said, that people appreciate. And we need to do our best. We don't need to solve the problem. We'll leave that to Hashem. We just need to do a lot more. We're not doing a great job right now. Just look at our enemies. We should learn from them what it means to be active. Very true. And at least you're here with us. You're radioactive. And active in so many different fronts.
Thank you.
Former Assemblyman Dov Hikind, thank you for being here with us.
And let me just say, can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I just want to, I don't get a chance to do this. You do this for decades and decades and decades, and you have been in the forefront of so many things on behalf of the Jewish people. And I just want to say publicly, thank you for what you do, being steadfast, directing the debate, the arguments, and loving the Jewish people the way you and your wife do and your family.
But thank you, and you and Shani do an amazing job of all aspects, whether it's Israel or fighting for the Jewish community. And that's why I'm hoping that we'll see you in Congress Senate may be a little harder, but at least in Congress, and looking forward to that possibility down the road.
Look, I'm ready to go. It just have to be elected, a minor technicality.
In today's day and age, that may not be a barrier. Or you can be a shadow congressman, right? Listen, we have a shadow president.
Thank you, Zev.
Right, Barack Obama is running the show, according to what many people believe.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dov, thank you. Look forward to regards to Shani.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, the pulse beat of the Jewish community.
For continuous Jewish programs, TalklineNetwork.com, or our 24-hour-a-day listen line at 641-741-0389. For past shows, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms, or jewishpodcast.org. Thanks for listening to the TalklineNetwork.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.